UFC Fight Night Lewis versus Nascimento has just taken place, with Joaquin Buckley putting on a hometown show, Robelis Despaigne getting exposed, and Derrick Lewis, of course, mooning the whole entire arena. So in this video, I'll be giving you a recap of every single fight on the card and all the best moments of the card. Kicking it off with JJ Aldrich versus Veronica Hardy. Now, in the first round, JJ was very patient. Like I said in the predictions, her strength was coming in very well, especially in the clinch. And when Veronica was coming in to strike her, she was countering very well with that check right hook. But Hardy's speed and her volume and activity overall was probably what got the best of the fight. Hardy did bust up JJ Aldrich's nose in that first round with an elbow when they were coming out of a clinch, which, yeah, her nose was just bleeding, so it was a good tell for the judges. And when it came to the second round, Hardy was a lot more active. When you look in the fight, JJ, compared to Veronica, was very slow. She's not very movement heavy in comparison. And I mean, that can definitely come down to Veronica being that small 125er. And JJ Aldrich was playing it pretty conservatively as well. You can see that she was popping a 1, 2, maybe like a 3 here and there, but she needed more combinations to be popping off to, you know, run away with the fight. I think she could have done it. She seemed, honestly, I think she seemed more comfortable and more composed on the feet than Veronica did. But I think JJ did seal it by dropping Veronica in the third round, and she had a lot of control. She had 5 minutes of control time in that fight. Obviously, the control isn't everything, and I see through this fight card, the judges were very heavy on the striking output rather than the control time, which is fair enough. Damage is before control, but I mean, JJ did drop Veronica to get her down and then controlled her. Honestly, I did have JJ Aldrich taking the third round and just edging the first, to be honest. But I can see a 29-28 for Hardy. I mean, it was a very close fight, and I'm not mad about the prediction being wrong, but yeah, it definitely could have gone either way. Moving up to Jake Hadley versus Charles Johnson. Now, in the first round, Hadley was definitely doing the right thing, and he took the round. He put Charles Johnson on the back foot, was utilizing his forward pressure very well, which he usually does in his fights. And whenever Johnson was trying to get strikes off, he was parrying all of them with his elbows. His strike defense was very good, especially when he was pointing his elbow out. He was just parrying all the shots, especially Charles Johnson's jab. But from there, when we look in the second round, Johnson adapted very well from the first to the second. He stunned Hadley very quickly in the first round, and then dropped Hadley at the end of the second round, and overall he outlanded him as well. And the main thing that was getting through was when Johnson was not on the back foot and he was able to find his range, his right cross was finding so much success. And ultimately, I think that, along with his takedown defense, definitely won him the fight. I don't really have an argument for Hadley winning the fight, just the first round. And his takedown defense was amazing. He was 11 takedown stuff. Hadley went 0 for 11. And yeah, it was a very good performance for Charles Johnson. He adapted very well in terms of that wrestling, that takedown threat. Like when he fought against Cody Durden was absolutely destroying him with the wrestling. And this time he adapted so well, he didn't even get taken down once. So yeah, an extremely good win for Charles Johnson. Moving up to Billy Goff versus Trey Waters. Now, it was an amazing first round. It was an amazing fight overall in general. But in that first round, I don't know how the ref didn't pull Waters up for the knee to the downed opponent. It was clear Goff had a knee right on the mat and didn't lift it up for like about 1 or 2 seconds after he got kneed in the face. And it was right on the chin as well. Both of them did get wobbled, but I think that Waters was landing the cleaner shots overall throughout pretty much the entire fight. But I was actually pretty surprised at how well Waters was actually taking the shots through the fight. He did get hit a few times where it was like, oh, it looks like he's about to be on skates. But yeah, he did very well. His chin held up definitely better than I thought. I obviously thought Goff was going to finish him. But yeah, he got wobbled at one point, especially off a clinch elbow that Goff had. But yeah, he did very well to maintain his composure and stay standing. But he was gassed. I think if that fight was to go any longer, I think Goff would have ended up taking it. Goff was on the pedal the whole entire time. So much forward pressure, and he looked better than Waters did. I think Waters' weight cut must be pretty serious, because he was on the back foot most of that fight. And he was heaving, especially if you look at the second to the third round, when there was a little bit of wait time between the second and third round for the third round to start. And he was just breathing so heavily. But, I mean, Waters did end up landing the cleaner shots. But I do think Goff did outland him and pressured him the entire fight. And I will say, like Trey Waters did have a good performance, but I honestly think that Goff did enough to get the fight done. I think he just had so much forward pressure. He outlanded him throughout the entire fight. Yes, Waters did land the cleaner shots, but Goff was just so consistent in the fight in terms of what he was trying to do, the forward pressure, trying to take him down. He did land one takedown. He had 11 others stuffed, but I mean, he still was able to mix it up, got the takedown, hurt Waters, and just kept pressing forward. So yeah, I don't really agree with this one. I honestly would have had this one to Goff 29-28. Moving up to Tabatha Ricci versus Tecia Pennington. Now, you got to give it to Tecia. I mean, she did very well considering she had such a physical change. Obviously, she's come off just having the baby, and her speed was very, very good. It maintained very well, and I mean, her stamina didn't wane at all. And yeah, that's very impressive, not only from having such an high output fight, but, obviously having that huge physical change with the body, and being at such a light weight class where speed and stamina is extremely important. And yeah, she just did a very good job. I think when it came to the kickboxing range, she was outclassing Ricci on the feet. And when it comes to the takedown game and the ground game in general, Ricci was finding success in the first round, but Tecia adapted very well going into the second round. She was cross-facing very well, which obviously meant that Ricci wasn't able to get her body into a position where she was able to successfully get the takedown. And yeah, Tecia was implementing that from the second round onwards. She stuffed pretty much all the takedowns up from the second round onwards, and it was just very impressive all around. But when we look at Ricci, she had just the cage pressure. The cage pressure was extremely, extremely good. She was able to control Tecia for most of it. She had 5 minutes of control time, especially just mainly on the cage. And yeah, she was doing a very good job of making sure that Tecia couldn't escape. And yeah, ultimately she did win that fight off of being able to stabilize Torres in that specific position. Moving on to Terrance McKinney versus Esteban Ribovics. Now, holy crap, Ribovics had a beautiful head kick KO. I mean, we obviously knew that this fight wasn't going to go to the distance, but man, that really sucks for Terrance McKinney. I mean, he's had a pretty rough spell in the UFC overall, and because he started very well, and now he's on notice from everyone, especially after the Matt Frivola fight, and he's had a lot of tough fights, and now he's had some vicious KO losses, especially this one, and especially the Ismail Bonfim one as well. It sucks for McKinney, but you cannot take away from Ribovics. I mean, honestly, KO of the night for him. It was a fantastic performance, and it's definitely going to put him on notice in the division. Moving up to Chase Hooper versus Viacheslav Borschev. Holy crap. Another holy crap fight. Just ridiculous from Chase Hooper. He shut me up with the prediction for sure. He looked fantastic. He was looking very sharp on the feet, and clearly he's got power. And he just looked big. He looked a lot bigger than his last fights. Over the last 1 to 2 years, he's definitely put on a lot of mass. Very similar to the way Charles Oliveira went through his transformation in terms of the muscle mass he put on. And you can tell that there's been a lot more power been put on Hooper as well. He's generating a lot more power. So, I mean, sat Borschev on his ass with that overhand left. He just dominated the fight. I mean, his stand-up was good, but what we have to take away from this fight is Hooper is seriously, he is up there in the rankings when it comes to his ground game. His transitions, and especially in this fight, the way he was able to flow and transition to make sure he was keeping mount position was just fantastic. Borschev was in so much trouble throughout the entirety of this fight. He got beat up like crazy. It looked like he grew a second head on his forehead. It was ridiculous after that elbow that Chase Hooper hit him with in the ground and pound. And yeah, honestly, I thought the first round was a 10-8 to Chase Hooper, but obviously it didn't matter. He finished him anyway. And I don't think, in all honesty, I don't think Borschev actually tapped. But honestly, the transitions were just that ridiculous. He just didn't have a chance on the ground. I think he was going to get finished either by a submission, or he was just going to get ground and pounded out one way or another. I mean, they were still in the second round. There's still a third round to go. And I don't know if that was going to be changing much, especially the way that Chase Hooper was able to get him to the ground as well. And yeah, ultimately, I'm definitely not mad at getting this prediction wrong. And it was a fantastic, honestly, perfect feature prelim fight. Moving up to the main card, Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus Robelis Despaigne. Fraud checked. Waldo was taking some shots early on, but he did take them very well. As I said in the predictions, he's definitely got that chin. When we look at this, we definitely have answers now that Robelis Despaigne just does not have a ground game. It was pretty frustrating looking at it. Obviously, I had Robelis in my predictions, and when it came to that third round, he was just way too overly complacent. Yes, there is the takedown that he needs to fear, but yeah, it's still way too complacent in that stage of the fight to not let go. He needed to pop some shots off. Even if he got taken down, at least he tried. But he got taken down without putting too much damage on Cortes-Acosta. And Cortes-Acosta from this could have a pretty quick turnaround. He only absorbed 28 strikes overall, and Despaigne absorbed 130. It's just a ridiculous multiplier on that. Waldo Cortes-Acosta, I mean, he didn't... Obviously, the crowd was booing the shit out of him, but he fought a very smart fight considering who he was fighting, and you cannot blame him all for fighting the way he did. And yeah, beating a fighter like that who had a lot of hype on his name is going to push him so much further up the rankings, and he'll probably get a top 15 fight pretty soon. Moving up to Alex Caceres versus Sean Woodson. Now, Woodson was doing very well early. He was chewing up the legs, was very smart because, as I said in the predictions, Alex does have pretty unorthodox movements, pretty free-flowing style. So he needed to make sure that he was doing that early to cut that down. And it was very, very important. Looking at the whole entire fight, it was extremely important that he did that because Alex was coming back in the fight without a doubt. And it was pretty even throughout the first fight when it came to the strikes they were landing as well. So it was definitely close. I will say there's a lot in the MMA world right now. They're saying, a lot of people are saying that it's a robbery and Caceres got robbed. He should have won, but I don't think so. I think Woodson did win, but definitely should not have been a 30-27 win. I don't know why the judge scored every round for Woodson. Like, I had Woodson, but nah, not every single round. I think Woodson took the first two, but then Caceres was really finding his flow in the third round. And you could tell by the relief on Woodson's face after it was called. He knew it was closer than he thought. And yeah, like when you look at Caceres making it that close, he was pressuring very well in the second and outlanded Woodson. He outlanded Woodson in both the second and the third round, but I think Woodson was landing the better shots overall. And yeah, it was just Woodson's striking diversity. He has amazing feints as well, especially with it, just like flinging his hands out and everything. It's definitely keeping Caceres guessing in that first round. And yeah, just his overall volume when it came to that first round, it was just very decisive there. And when it came to, just as I said, him picking the shots, I think you could see that there was a bit more damage being done with Woodson's shots compared to Caceres' shots. Yeah, as I said, very close fight. Don't think it was a 30-27 win for Woodson, but I do think he won the fight. Moving on to Diego Ferreira versus Mateusz Rebecki. Now, definitely a underdog win and a half. This was a fantastic performance by Ferreira, but we'll start with the first round, and that was definitely Rebecki's round. He was putting on the pace early, and he took it very cleanly. I mean, it was a bit controversial in the way that he did drop Ferreira. It was controversial in the sense that they were going for an exchange at the same time, but Rebecki was pulling back and then headbutted Ferreira. It was complete accident, but it definitely stunned Ferreira. You could see it on his face, and then right after that, Rebecki dropped him. The first round, very clean for Rebecki. I mean, it wasn't clean, obviously, because of the headbutt, but it was definitely decisively his. But when we look past that round, Ferreira was just doing such a great job in terms of adapting. He put Rebecki on the back foot and was outlanding him, which is like no one does that to Rebecki. And Rebecki was gassing out a lot. And Ferreira was able to use that 8-inch reach advantage very well, especially with his jab. And Rebecki's face was a mess. He was straight out of like Freddy Krueger. I'm surprised. I was actually thinking when the doctor had that call, I thought that he wasn't going to be able to fight, because when you're looking on the screen, you can't see all the details of the face. And it honestly just looked like his eyes were both completely closed. And that obviously happened in the second, but in the third round, you could tell Rebecki could not see properly at all. Like the shots that were coming, he just was not able to evade them, and you could tell that when he was getting jabbed, he was evading straight after them. So you could obviously tell that his vision was definitely compromised. And yeah, he just completely gassed himself. I mean, he gassed very hard. He didn't pace himself throughout the fight. I think he had I mean, obviously he's going to be confident. 10 years undefeated and 16 fight win streak. You're going to be confident going in there. But yeah, going against that veteran and gassing himself out the way he did, I mean, yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity for Ferreira to take over, and he did. And yeah, just an amazing performance by him, like showing what that veteran can do, especially being 39 years old against an up-and-comer in his prime like that. Yeah, just a fantastic win for Ferreira. Moving on to Alonzo Menifield versus Carlos Ulberg. Yeah, there's not much to say here. I mean, as said in the predictions, that left hook is nasty from Carlos Ulberg. I mean, Alonzo could have avoided this issue, but he just did not have any fight IQ going into the cage on this fight. I don't know why he just aggressively pushed forward, went straight forward, was trying to take Ulberg's head off, which is playing straight into Ulberg's game. There was absolutely no point in doing it. I would understand if he was going for the shot. If he was trying to shoot in for a double leg, which at that pace, it looked like he was going to do it. But then he just starts lifting and swinging, and he just bounces himself straight into the fence. He did hit Ulberg on the way in once, but as Ulberg said in his post fight, the strike woke him up, and then Ulberg turned around and they got in an exchange. and Olberg already had the better of the exchange because Alonzo had already slipped and was getting back up. And as soon as he got up, that left hook just came in clean, hit him right on the side of the chin and dropped him. It was just silly from Menifield. I mean, he just pretty much just threw the fight there, played right into Olberg's game. But yeah, just a great win for Olberg, and he gets straight into the rankings, and he will hopefully get a shot in the top 10. Moving up to the co-main event, Joaquin Buckley versus Nascimento Ruziboyev. Now, before we get into the fight itself, the crowd was insane for Buckley. It was ridiculous. Like, I thought I had like sat on my remote and the volume had honestly just gone up, and I was like, oh shit, this is really loud. But every time Buckley was going to shoot and he successfully got a takedown, the crowd was just going absolutely nuts. So yeah, it was definitely an amazing win for Buckley. And when we look at the fight itself, Buckley was very patient. And that was very, very good. That's what I was thinking was going to be the win or lose factor in this fight for him. And that's why I did take Ruziboyev. But he took that issue away and fought very well. He timed his takedowns extremely well. But when it came to keeping control in the early round, Ruziboyev's legs just being so lengthy, it kept Buckley from being able to land anything good on him. And Ruziboyev, honestly, he just could not stop the takedowns to save his life. And that was partly his biggest issue. But one of the bigger issues, I would say, is that he just didn't mix up his strikes at all. He was throwing like a right knee and then throwing a right hand, and that's about it. Yeah, it just was a pretty lackluster performance for Ruziboyev, and it was a great statement for Buckley in his hometown. Fantastic win. And moving on to the main event, Derrick the Black Beast Lewis versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Now, if you thought that Joaquin Buckley was having a good night in his hometown, I mean, you just look at Derrick Lewis in general, he was just having a great night, and it wasn't even the win. It wasn't even the fight itself. It was just the post-fight celebrations, but we'll get into that in a bit. But when we look at the fight itself, I mean, Nascimento, to his credit, he did have a good first round. The first round was played into Nascimento's game more than it was for Lewis. He played it very smart, utilizing his clinch game, and he did get the fight to the ground. Lewis did reverse him towards the end to keep himself safe, but ultimately you just give Nascimento the first round. And with the second round, Nascimento was still finding some success, but I think Lewis did edge it with his output. And yeah, he did have some pretty successful flurries in that fight and was pushing Nascimento up against the cage for clinches. But yeah, overall, Lewis, I mean, he just has that freak power. And that right overhand that he landed put Nascimento on skates immediately. Like, his legs just flew out from under him. And yeah, from there, as soon as Derrick got a hold of him, it was done from there. It was, yeah, just a fantastic win and a fantastic night for Derrick the Black Beast Lewis. Moving on to the Fight Card Awards, kicking it off with the fighter to watch. Got to give it to Chase Hooper, honestly. Absolutely fantastic performance from him. He's showed he's got the power on the feet that we have never seen before. He's put that muscle on, and yeah, that power is generating really well. Similar to the way I said Charles Oliveira has generated his power going, like, putting on muscle mass as well. The way he did it to, like, you know, he did Gaethje and he did Chandler. I mean, we could possibly see Chase Hooper doing similar things. Obviously, probably not to those fighters, but yeah, I mean, ultimately, him putting on that muscle mass has worked wonders for him. And honestly, when it looked to the ground game, it looked like he was a pro and Borschev was an amateur. Like, he was masterful on the ground in comparison and completely destroyed him. And when we look at his post-fight speech, I would love to see Hooper versus Pimlet, especially like that fight in MMA, but I'd love to just see them on the ground to see who would win that one. Now, moving on to finish of the night. We did have a few finishes, not as many as I thought we would have had, but I honestly think you've got to give it to Esteban Ribovics. absolutely flatlined McKinney, and he's even more dangerous now. Like, if you look back in his fights, he's very boxing heavy, but knowing that he has kicks like that now and he's able to fling them up in those combinations, it just makes him so much more scary within that lightweight division. And yeah, as I said, when it comes to that fight, whoever was on the back foot, I just don't think they were going to be able to win that fight, and especially emphasizing the chin of McKinney and how damaged it's been over the last few fights. Yeah, a kick like that, his chin was never going to hold up against that. Moving on to my third place fight card moment, I'm going to give it to Oldberg with his 11-second finish. I mean, as I said in the actual fight recap itself, no fight IQ from Menifield, but you can't take away from Oldberg in that. I mean, great composure from him, going on the back foot, utilizing his counter-striking like he always does. And yeah, it's just fantastic for him. He gets straight into the rankings now. Moving on to second place, got to give it to Derrick Lewis, man. Lewis full mooning the crowd and throwing the cup at the media member. And the media member got the cup signed. He smelled the cup as well, actually. I don't know why I was talking about the signing first. He smelt the cup for some reason. He said it didn't smell that bad, but I mean, you do you. He smelt the cup and then got it signed by Derrick Lewis and got it signed by Dana White. So, I mean, good day for him. Good day for Derrick Lewis as well. And yeah, Lewis just made a complete night out of it. But yeah, it was honestly just fantastic for him, not only him, but I also want to add, it's definitely great for Buckley as well. I mean, just the crowd was electric for both of them, and yeah, fantastic. Just fantastic card overall, realistically. Now, moving on to our first place, I've got to give it to Ribovics' head kick KO. Honestly, it was just not only the fact that it was the head kick KO, it was just a flawless performance from him. He barely got touched. He's going to be able to make a quick turnaround. And just in terms of the geographical side of things as well, which is always important, you look at him being Argentinian. I mean, we haven't had a great Argentinian finisher since Ponzinibbio. I know we've got Prado there, but Prado is a little bit more inconsistent. But yeah, having a new Ponzinibbio in there, like, honestly, it's just fantastic for South America there as well. And, you know, especially having that kind of KO power like that and having a chin like he does, if he keeps going the way he's going to be making moves in the lightweight division for sure. He just needs to work on that strike defense, which he didn't have to worry about in this fight. But yeah, just ultimately great for him. I mean, beating a fairly well-known name like McKinney as well. Yeah, very, very good performance for him. And overall, I think it was a very great fight night. I mean, I didn't do too well on predictions. It was mainly down to that close scoring for most of the fights, but yeah, definitely one of the best fight nights of the year so far. If you've liked the video and you want to see more MMA-based content, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.